Welcome back. I'm Shayna Cersei, and I'm so excited to paint with you today. Today we're going to do another page in our watercolor journals. If you're new here, I am working on a 6x9 watercolor journal page. It is Bauhong is the brand. It is 100% cotton, 140-pound cold press. I'm using my Core QOR by Golden mini palette today. And then I also have a couple of brushes. I have two round brushes, a size 10 and a size 3. One is a Princeton Velvet Touch and one is a Princeton Aqua Elite. Whatever round brushes you have will work great. Today we're going to do another whimsical folk art inspired landscape piece. These are always fun and I really enjoy them, and you guys seem to really enjoy them as well. So that's what we're going to do today. I don't know if you can see because it's a light color, but I've masked out or taped out a square. So I'm going to do a square piece. I'll use this over here to do some swatching of colors. And then I also have just a standard number 2 pencil, mechanical pencil, whatever pencil you have. Just remember, drawing lightly will be your friend. I'll draw a little darker so you can see what I'm doing. Then I also have a kneaded eraser, and these are great for erasing on your watercolor paper without damaging the surface of the paper. So let's get started. So I'm just going to sketch out kind of a basic outline of a few little hills. Let's do some hills here. Doop-de-doo. 1, 2. I'm going to draw in a structure or a house. So just putting a house here kind of nestled in this hill. I'm going to put another hill behind it. This line is very not parallel to the page. I'm really terrible at that. Getting lines to actually be parallel. So we're just going to put like a little barn structure here. I'm going to be using bleed proof white to outline some of my windows and doors. You could mask that out with masking fluid if you wanted, because I want the outline of the doors and the windows to be white. I'm just going to use bleed proof white in the end, but one of the things I like to do is really exaggerate some of the openings. I think it gives it that more kind of whimsical look. So again, you can see this is totally crooked. It's better, but it's okay. All right, what else? So basically I just drew triangle, 2 parallel lines here, our roof kind of receding back, some windows or openings. I'm going to put another one, maybe I'll do another 2 up above here. All the windows are going to have most likely a white outline and white panes on them. You don't have to draw them all in now. I'm just putting them in so you guys can see. So that's our little house. I'm going to put another hill behind it here. And I'm also going to put some trees in this landscape. Let's see. I'm going to make these trees really tall, I think. Should I put one behind? No, let's just put one. I'm going to do a really tall tree here. And again, I'm just kind of putting out a few lines to mark out spaces. I'm going to put one here, but it's actually going to be shorter and a little smaller on top because it's further away. And I'm going to put a fence somewhere, I think. I'm going to start here. And my fence line is going to go down the hill. This is me making stuff up as I go. So again, if it's further away, it's a little smaller, closer. So this is going to follow this line here, and you can see how the lines get closer together as they go further back. And a little fence there. And one more. And then I think that's good. And you know what? We're going to put one of those, excuse me, a nice big sun or moon. Over here, kind of rising behind the house. There we go. Okay, so that is our outline for our little folk art inspired. Now some of the real Americana, I should say, like American folk art paintings were super detailed and super layered. They would have something like this, but then they would have, you know, 20 of them kind of receding into the background and kind of depicting life, you know, in America at the time. Okay, let's get to painting. All right, for painting, for colors, what am I going to do here? I have no plan. The last one I did, we did reds and yellows and blacks, which is way out of my comfort zone. But I loved it. And I usually love cool colors. So let's do cool colors today. Greens and blues. Yeah, let's do that. I'm gonna go bold. I think I'm gonna go bold today. I'm using my Core Mini palette. This Core Mini palette packs a big punch. So these are the colors that come in it. Link in the description if you want to actually get a link to it. But these are the colors it comes with. Every color I really need to mix almost any other color I would need. And they are super, super pigmented. So I just barely touched that phthalo blue. So I'm using phthalo blue green shade here. And look how pigmented it is. I didn't let it sit with water. I didn't scrub it. Just a light touch. The ultramarine is a little bit more. You have to let it sit. But the others are sap green. Look how pigmented that is. Oh my gosh. It's like all the paint I'm going to need for this whole painting. So highly recommend. Okay. Maybe I'll add some yellow. I'm going to stick with blues and greens. Should I add ultramarine? Oh, that was not. I mixed so much green into that ultramarine. That is not ultramarine, people. That is a layer of green over my ultramarine. There we go. All right, so blues and greens. Let's stick with these. And I could add a little yellow to my green to get some more yellowy green shades. I'm going to keep this bright. Let's do a nighttime scene, I think. And I am going to start with my sky with, this is ultramarine. It's definitely got a little Payne's gray in it. There we go. That's a little more ultramarine-y. I'm going to paint right around these shapes here. If you're not confident with this, you can definitely mask this out. And if you're doing like a big shape like this, like a big round circle, and you have masking fluid, you don't have to mask the whole thing. You can just mask the edges, like a nice little edge to kind of keep you from going inside there. You can use a water method where you're wetting the whole page first, like wet on wet. I'm just going over these trees because I think I'm actually going to do them in bleed proof white. Do the whole sky. All right, it's a little stripy. We're gonna let it dry. I might put on a second coat, but I might just leave it the way it is. All right, so let's move on to the house. I am gonna leave white, but the roof is gonna be a different color. Let's do the, I don't know if I'm gonna like this. We're gonna do phthalo blue green shade, this phthalo blue here, in the ground, as well as greens. So I'm going to do this one down here. So I have this fence in here. I'm going to do that in probably white as well. But I'm going to go straight, super punchy phthalo blue. Even if I decide to do the fence in like a dark color, this will work. I can just paint right over it. That is blue for sure. I'm going to do green. So I'm going super, super pigmented here. And it's just, you know, let's just see what it looks like. And then we'll decide if we love it or hate it. And I was supposed to swatch colors out over here and I never did. So sometimes it's not always advisable, but sometimes you can go into a painting without a plan and you can just experiment and play and decide as you're going along if it's working or not. And you can finish it or abandon it halfway through and be like, it didn't work. Or you can sit and meticulously swatch out your colors, really envision what the outcome is going to be. And that is fine too. So I'm going to swatch these colors out. All right, and I'm going to do this one green back here. These, I think I am going to add a darker color. We'll probably do Ultramarine and Payne's Gray for the trees, and I'm going to actually make some tree shapes, and then I'll use bleed proof white on the trunks and branches. Yeah. All right. What else can we do right now? So the roof of the house. I don't think the roof of the house can be phthalo blue or green. I could do Payne's Gray and just give it a gray roof. Don't worry, we'll get to that moon. I'm going to switch brushes. Could probably go a little bit bigger than this size 3 that I have, but I'm going to make this size 3 work. I just wanted to have nice clean edges. My other brush, the tip of it was not as structured as I would like it to be. I love and hate these types of paintings because they look like a hot mess, like halfway through. This is dry enough. But they always seem to come together in the end. Okay, I'm going to darken the windows. So we'll do this in Payne's Gray, the doorways and windows. Again, I'm going to come back and do outlines with bleed proof white for the panes, the window panes. Darken the inside. You can always tell when I am working on small spaces, I get quiet. There we go. There's our little house. Let's see, our things are dry enough around this up here. So we're gonna do this green again. I am gonna go a little lighter. And you know what? I'm gonna add a little Nicolazo yellow. Actually, no, let's do some cadmium yellow. So we're gonna go, they look very similar. Let's go even lighter. This part around the house, I'm just trying to be very careful. So you can see the difference on here. And as this dries, you should be able to see the difference. There we go. I am going to come back into here and I'm going to put another layer of this. And I think I'll be putting some shadows on the fence. All right. Let's put some Payne's Gray down here because we definitely use this as well. It's a really dark version of Payne's Gray. And now we're going to do trees, moon, and our white accents. And I might put some foliage and some darker things in the foreground. So let's let this dry. Let me make sure everything's dry, and then we'll go to the next step. All right, we're back. Everything is dry. While I was letting it dry, I cleaned out my water, so I have nice, fresh, clean water. You should do the same because we're going to do the moon, and we need nice, clean water to go in there. So this we're going to add water to all the way up to the edges and around the house. And we're going to use a wet on wet technique to give it some shape and form. So basically to form like the craters on the moon. Now I have this section down here that kind of runs into the house. So I want to make sure I put some color specifically down there. Just making sure we're sufficiently wet. It's on a little bit of a slant, so that might affect things a little bit. You could definitely add a little yellow as well as Payne's Gray. I'm just using very light Payne's Gray. In a few areas. I'm going to keep it kind of bottom heavy, I think. Again, emphasizing the shape around the bottom so that doesn't get lost as it kind of folds into the house. When it dries, there's also this tiny little gap between the moon and this top hill here. I will fill that in probably with this color or something like it. Go the tiniest bit darker down here. I know it looks dramatic, but as it dries, it's going to get much lighter. All right, I'm going to let that dry. There's like a puddle of water right here on the edge. I'm just going to, on the tape, I'm just going to take that off so it's not pulling paint and things off the page. All right, so we're going to let that do its thing, and I'm going to focus on trees up here. So for that, I'm going to do, actually, let's do Phthalo and Payne's Gray. And let's mix in the sap green. So this really dark, a new green color that we have here. Because we need something dark to go over top of this. Almost looks black to you probably on the camera. All right, I am just going to paint this right over top and make these very stylized little canopies for trees. And then over top of this, I'm going to be using that bleed proof white to put in branches, and you'll see it'll make it look very mystical, whimsical. If you've ever done one of these with me before. All right, so 2 tall trees. You can go back in after it dries and add another layer if it's not quite dark enough in all the spots. Because again, we're painting a dark color on top of a dark color. Not always ideal in watercolor. There we go. I'm gonna let that dry, do its thing. Let's jump back over, let's jump into our bleed proof white, and we'll start to work on areas that are dry in other sections of the house. We'll put the fence in while this dries up top. Ugh. So cleaning off my brush, I'm going to use my little brush here. Here's what it looks like. My particular bleed proof white, Dr. Peach Martin's bleed proof white. You can get, there are a couple of other brands that do bleed proof white now as well. I think Winsor & Newton has one. Core might even have one. But I love Dr. Peach Martin's. I just have to mix this up. I'm going to use a different, a little palette knife in here. So my bleed proof white I left open a while ago and it got all dried out. I just added water to it, let it sit. But now I do have a somewhat watery version of it because I added a little too much water. I just need to get a new jar of it. But this will work for now for our purposes. So for our fence, I'm trying to decide if I want to do the fence in a dark color now. Let's do our windows. So using my size 3 brush, I'm going to go in and just put in our window panes. Here. Here. And now because my house is white, if I want to give the illusion of there being a frame around it, I'm going to go in with my Payne's Gray. That wasn't a very straight line. And I'm going to outline some of them. This one I'm just going to do the outline on the one side. Top here. Just very, very light. This should probably have been a lot closer, but it is what it is. And then I'm going to go in this door and actually make it even darker. Now that it's dried, it's pretty light. And this doesn't have a door, it's just an open doorway. Black, you go inside, walk straight in. Not necessarily the type of door you would actually see. All right. I'm going to do an experiment here. I'm going to put in, yeah, I think we can do the fence in a darker color. We'll just do Payne's Gray. And then we'll also put in some shadows. I'm going to do some other white accents in some foliage in the front here. I have to go a little darker. There we go. And then, so the moon's over here. I'm going to make some shadows this way. For my fence. Make them even a little longer if you wanted. And if you really wanted to go crazy, you could put some kind of white accents on the side, reflecting some of the light. That's a really bright moon if it's reflecting that much white. But again, this is whimsical made-up land. It doesn't have to be perfect. Yeah, that looks great. Great. Okay, dry trees dry. While those continue to dry, I am going to throw in some foreground foliage here. We're going to use some of this darker green color to kind of bring this green down here. I'm just going to put in some leaves in the foreground. Try to be pretty delicate. And we're going to come in and do some white as well. So just some different branch leaf structures. Some with bigger leaves, some with smaller, rounder leaves. These have to go a little bit darker over here. Almost see-through. So think like silhouette kind of, but like in color. Okay, and then let's put in, I'm going to use my, these are just taking too long for me. I'm going to use my dryer. So this is a heat tool. Again, link in the description. It's great to get things dry more quickly. There we go. That's all it took. Now they're nice and dry. So let's go back to our bleed proof white. I'm going to put in these tall, tall trees. We're going to keep the trunk nice and thin. And then as I get up here, we are going to put the branches kind of right into the foliage. And I know you wouldn't always see that much of the branches in a tree like this, but it gives it that fun, playful, primitive style. It's like our idea of a tree versus what a tree actually looks like. In our heads, we're like, trees have all these branches and we should be able to see every single one of them. The concept of a tree. When in reality, you can't see most of them. All right, let's finish off with some white pops of color, or white pops of white down here. To like little dotted wheat stalk type thingies. Do another one of these little dotted like dandelion type thingies. Those are always fun. There we go. All right. I think we're done. I think we're done for now. Let's take off our tape so we can see those clean edges. Oh, that didn't come off very well. There we go. Thank you for joining me today for this fun little whimsical folk art inspired watercolor. Lots of bright and bold colors, but in our cool colors, greens and blues. Don't forget to check out the description to look if you're interested in links to supplies and materials that I use. You can also leave a comment, like the video, subscribe to the channel, share with a friend. As always, thanks for painting with me, and I'll see you for our next watercolor journal page very soon. Take care, y'all.